This is Coffee with God, and I am Father Jose. Let us begin this day with the Word of God and a short reflection.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 23, verses 13 to 22. The passage is taken from the Message version of the Bible. I've had it with you. You're hopeless, you religion scholars, you Pharisees, frauds. Your lives are roadblocks to God's kingdom. You refuse to enter and won't let anyone else in either. You're hopeless, you religion scholars and Pharisees, frauds. You go halfway around the world to make a convert, but once you get him, you make him into a replica of yourselves, double damned. You're hopeless. What arrogant stupidity. You say, if someone makes a promise with his fingers crossed, that's nothing. But if he swears with his hand on the Bible, that's serious. What ignorance! Does the leather on the Bible carry more weight than the skin on your hands? And what about this piece of trivia? If you shake hands on a promise, that's nothing. But if you raise your hand that God is your witness, that's serious. What ridiculous hair-splitting! What difference does it make whether you shake hands or raise hands? A promise is a promise. What difference does it make if you make your promise inside or outside a house of worship? A promise is a promise. God is present, watching, and holding you to account regardless. The Gospel of the Lord.
Reflections on the Gospel according to St. Matthew chapter 23, verses 13 to 22. Today the Church celebrates the feast of the Queenship of Mary. Pope Pius XII established the feast of Queenship of Mary in the liturgical calendar in the year 1954. Mary is Queen because she is the mother of Christ the King, and she participated in Jesus' redemptive mission. Today's feast highlights Mary's spiritual motherhood in the Church and reminds us that if we persevere, we shall also reign with Him as members of Christ's royal priesthood. Today's Gospel passage from the Message version of the Bible better conveys Jesus' frustration with the stiff-necked behaviour of Pharisees and Scribes. The words of Jesus are to be understood as a reflection of our Christian communities and how we behave. Today and in the coming 2 days, we will listen to the list of 7 woes or the 7 griefs that Jesus places against corrupt religious leaders. They are contrasting the list of beatitudes proclaimed by Jesus in His Sermon on the Mount. The first of the woes is leveled against those who shut up the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. The criticism of Jesus about these Pharisees was not about the power they enjoyed, but about the wrong way of exercising power by placing impossible burdens on the shoulders of those who were not capable of carrying them. Matthew, while writing the Gospel for the Jewish Christians, was perhaps referring to the stiff resistance of the Jews to accept faith in Jesus. Therefore, on the one hand, this can be seen as a reference to their rejection of Jesus. On the other, it can also mean that they made the observance of the law impossible with their complex interpretation of the Torah. Many people within the church communities claim to believe in Jesus, but their behavior both blocks people's access to Jesus and is far from Him. They would not mind walking the extra mile or sailing across far-off places to pronounce their distorted catechism, creating a wrong understanding of Jesus and His teachings. How often do we encounter Catholic leaders who use foul language to describe the Pope, bishops, and priests? They regard themselves as custodians of faith, creating hatred towards the vigor of Christ and creating division in the church. situations that prevailed in the time of Jesus and the challenges that confront the church today are very similar. We see the abuse of authority and power every day, whether in the church, government, or business, leading to all kinds of greed and corruption. Positions of service are turned into instruments of personal gain, often at the expense of the weakest and the neediest. The church too can find itself in excessive concern over money matters at the expense of its pastoral mission. A church and its wealthy institutions in a world of poverty and need is a stumbling block to the authentic preaching of the gospel.